What is the term for protein deficiency? Veganism. Nah, of course not. Joking aside, do you know the term used to describe protein malnutrition? It's called kwashiorkor. It's practically non-existent in westernized societies. It occurs in areas of famine and poor food supply. Poor food supply in terms of insufficient and limited food choices, not in terms of junk food. So what about protein? Is more protein better? Or do we get too much anyway? Let's take a closer look. Protein. Daily requirements. Actual protein needs can differ greatly on an individual basis. Thus, official guidelines include a safety buffer to cover the needs of large parts of the population, while the average requirements are much lower. For the average adult person, the daily recommended amount of protein is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram ideal body weight, independent of actual weight. Fat cells do not contribute to protein needs. Thus, protein requirements of overweight people do not differ from their equally tall, lean counterparts. We won't talk about the protein requirements of bodybuilders or endurance athletes, because the vast majority of people are neither and should simply focus on getting and not overshooting the recommended amount of protein. Let's take a look at some examples. A 165 cm tall woman has an ideal body weight of around 60 kg. 0.8 gram of protein per kilogram ideal body weight results in a daily recommended intake of 48 grams of protein, independent of actual weight. Depending on muscle mass and physical activity, this number can be shifted upwards a bit. A 175 cm tall man has an ideal body weight of around 70 kg. The daily recommended intake of protein is 56 gram. Again, depending on muscle mass and physical activity, this number can be increased a bit. If you are not into serious bodybuilding or train like an endurance athlete, there is no need to exceed the recommended amounts calculated above. Calorie percentage. Let's look at protein requirements in terms of calorie percentage. This is where you'll find the craziest numbers online. It would be funny if it wasn't so serious. Let's say the woman above is moderately active and her calorie intake is 2000 calories per day. In this example, the recommended amount of protein makes up only about 10% of her daily calories. Let's say the man above takes in 2500 calories per day. This also comes out as 10% of calories. These numbers fit well with the protein intake of the longest living population, the inhabitants of Okinawa. They got 9% of their calories from protein. Depending on muscle mass and activity level, you can increase your protein intake to 15% of calories. But for the average adult, there is no need to go above this threshold, as increased activity also means increased calorie intake, so you'll end up with more protein anyway. Bioavailability and biological value. The bioavailability and biological value of different protein sources play a minor role. The bioavailability measures how much protein is absorbed by the body, whereas the biological value measures how well the body is able to utilize the absorbed protein. The bioavailability of plant protein is lower than that of animal protein, because fiber carries about 10% of all macronutrients through the small intestine. In the end, this just allows you to eat more food for the same number of calories. If you eat predominantly plant-based, you should increase your target to 0.9 gram of protein. The biological value is often represented for each food item separately. But in fact, the combination of various foods in a meal or even over several days boosts the overall biological value of all protein you eat. This is because different proteins have different ratios of essential amino acids. Protein with high biological value might even be harmful, as they increase IGF-1, which is implicated with increased cancer risk. Too much protein. Most people in westernized societies eat way too much protein, about twice as much as recommended. Food is a package deal. Animal protein comes with saturated fat, heme iron and other critical substances found in animal products. The excess animal protein itself seems to put a strain on our kidneys. When eating animal protein, our kidneys respond with an inflammatory reaction called hyperfiltration mode. Over decades of animal protein consumption, kidney function declines. In the US, more than half of the population are affected by reduced kidney function during their lifetime. Animal protein is also implicated with type 2 diabetes and weight gain. Branched-chain amino acids seem to negatively impact our metabolism, worsening insulin resistance, the cause of type 2 diabetes. The effect on our metabolism is huge. In a study, those eating the recommended amount of protein were able to eat 300 calories more a day and still lost more fat. Healthy protein sources. If you want to improve your health, protect your kidneys, reduce your risk for type 2 diabetes and lose weight easily, eat the recommended amount of protein and prefer plant protein over animal protein to avoid excess branched-chain amino acids. Healthy plant-based protein sources are legumes, beans, lentils, chickpeas, etc. and whole grains, including quinoa, rye, millet, etc. Try to include these protein-rich plant foods in your meals on a regular basis. Thanks for watching our video. Do you need recipe ideas to include more whole grains and legumes into your regular meals? Let us know in the comments and we might be able to help you out. We appreciate you very much and see you next week.